welcome to Inside the Exit. Welcome to another edition. I'm your host, Drew Brantley, and joined today with Bob Frisch.
Hello.
Today we're talking about when do I need to tell my employees, or when do I tell my employees that I'm selling the company or that I've sold my company. So there's some nuance to this topic. We want to talk through a few things and give you some food for thought to think about, when or who or how, and then also maybe the reality of some situations. So as you're going through the sale process itself is more invasive maybe than some people realize, meaning that potential buyers, as you're preparing the company to sell, and then also once potential buyers get involved, there's going to be things that they want to see. There's going to be questions they have, people they want to meet. So there are going to be certain people that are going to need to know in your organization. Likely, the people that are running the financials or working the books, or maybe your top lieutenants or your executive team, the key people that are involved in certain dynamics of the business, those are likely people that are going to need to know. Not all of them, but a lot of times all of them. Now, the person that's running the manufacturing machine or the person that's out in the truck in the field on a daily basis, they might not need to know. And a lot of times, it's not appropriate for them to know, and there's no reason for them on the front end. But just realize that you are going to need to involve certain people during the process. And so, we or other people can kind of help you think through who those people might be, but certain people are going to need to be involved because if a buyer comes in, they're going to want to talk to people, especially if you're leaving. Let's say you're wanting to retire, people are going to want to know, okay, who's running the business today? They're going to want to talk to those people, and you're going to need certain information, so the people providing that information oftentimes find out at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think the best way to look at it as a seller is, what if you were the buyer of another company? What would you want to know? Would you want to know their top people? Would you want to know exactly, are the numbers correct? Would you want to know what is their customers and how long have they had them? These type of things. So invasive, it might not be the right word for this, as much as it's going to be a diligence process that's going to take place. And from that point of view, there's certain people you're going to want on your team that help in that regard, that are members probably of your management team right now. So the question then becomes, when do you tell them? How do you tell them? What's the point of telling people that might not be involved in that at all? Or do you even tell those people, as Drew pointed out, the guy out driving the delivery truck or doing something out in the field? Does he need to know? So these are really, really important questions. But nobody's out there, and this is important, nobody's out there buying a company. Yeah, thanks for the piece of paper. Here's the money. Here's the check. Go cash it. I now own your company. Think about it. It doesn't happen that way, ever. Okay? So from the point of view of, they're going to need to know certain things. They're going to meet certain people. If you're, especially, as Drew pointed out, if you're exiting stage left, then they've got to know who's left to run the company. Who are these key people? Whether they talk to them or don't talk to them, they need to know who they are, and they need to know about them. And some of them at the very top, especially if you're exiting, they're going to probably need to meet, okay, at some stage along the way.
One of the concerns sellers often have, and as somebody that's run my own companies and sold my own companies, this is a concern I've had in the past or have today, as I think about my own companies, is disrupting what's going on. The key thing is, during the sales process, you want it to be as least disruptive as possible. And Bob's absolutely right. It doesn't have to be necessarily invasive in the negative sense, but there are additional things you might not see or look at or need on a regular basis that you're going to need. So it's going to be more due diligence focused than maybe your daily operations are. But you do want to make sure that your daily operations continue and the company continues to perform. So you've got to think about your unique organization. If I were to tell the people that work in my business, would it disrupt what they do? Or is it people that would take it in stride and realize, look, I'm good at what I do. There's nothing, I'm not losing my job. I'm not going anywhere, and maybe it's okay to tell them. Every company's different, but talk to somebody like us or somebody that might be able to help think through who in your organization are going to be the appropriate people. Oftentimes it's kind of the key executives, as we've said, or the key people that need to provide certain specific information, especially financials, customer-related things like that. So whoever's in charge of that, those are people that are definitely going to need to be involved.
And then ways to disguise people coming in and visiting your company. You can say they're tax people or accounting people from an accounting firm. There are ways to disguise it, don't get me wrong. But there are moments where certain people have to be involved besides just you, the seller, the quote seller, in this process along the way.
Oftentimes, to that point, during the process, you're going to have what's called management meetings. And the management meetings is usually between the potential buyer. Maybe if you've got an investment banker, a broker, an attorney, they're going to be there as well. And then yourself or the key management members of your company that are aware of the sale and involved in the process, they're going to be in this meeting. Oftentimes, the first couple of these meetings are not done at your facility. They're done off-site. Again, as Bob pointed out, a lot of buyers are very sensitive to the fact that you might be selling and realize that this might be disruptive. Now, your company, if it's not an issue to have it on site, if you're used to having all kinds of different people on site on a regular basis, then it's not a big deal to just use a conference room or a room and have some of these meetings. No big deal. Other people, you're not used to having people there, you can do it off site. So again, a lot of times they can be done off site because sellers are sensitive, but it doesn't have to be. And then after this management meeting, at some point, if those were done off site, the buyers at some point in the process are going to want to come and see your facility. They don't have to talk to all of your people, but that's where, as Bob said, buyers are very, very keen on what's important and what's not to you, and they're very sensitive to this fact that you don't want to disrupt the daily operations. So it can be disguised in a lot of different ways that people are coming in. Could be a family friend you're giving a tour to, could be some acquaintances. There's a lot of different ways that you can disguise this. But the likelihood is those buyers are going to want to come in. They're going to want to see your facility. They're going to want to see what's going on and kind of how you do what you do. You might buy a car sight unseen. Most people are not going to buy a business sight unseen at the end of the day.
Yeah, and this goes back to the video we made about preparing your company for sale. The more you've done to prepare the information for sale, the better it is, because then that material's already ready. It isn't something you're asking your controller to prepare materials in a whole different way than he's ever done before, things of that nature. There'll be requests from various buyers for certain information. Certainly that's going to happen that you might not have at your fingertips and you need to talk to someone. But on the other hand, the more you've gotten your company ready and understand how the sale process, whether it's through watching these videos, talking to us, talking to anybody that's involved in this process, you can get your company ready without even having a single buyer in mind, at that point. But that's important, and that's where preparation, and we do have a whole nother video on preparing your company for sale, even if you're not even engaged in the sale process yet.
Yeah. So kind of in summary, as we think about, potentially when do you tell your employees? You're going to need to tell certain ones because there's certain people that are going to need to provide you with information or be involved, or buyers are going to want to talk to. So kind of identifying who are those key people and how are you strategic and when and how you tell them. Give us a call and we can talk through specific details of that related to your specific company because it's different for everybody. But you also just need to be aware of, if we do start telling the rest of our employees, think through what's that going to do? How is that potentially going to impact what we do or how we do it? I will share something with you. And this is it's the reality of what happens. When you start going through a sale process early on, we get why you might not want to tell certain employees. At the end of the day, what we find out when we actually talk to companies and we talk to employees or we talk to sellers, after the fact, they say, look, I spent all this energy and effort, trying to make sure nobody knew that I was going through this process. But at the end of the day, my employees, they all knew. They figured out that something was wrong. I was around more than I used to, or I was asking for things I never asked for before.
We had one that was really funny. He said, they got it because I kept closing my door on a phone call. I mean, things like that. You don't realize that employees are smart. That's why they work for you. They're smart people. That's why you have them there. At the end of the day, it's deciding who needs to know and moving down that track and doing the best you can. But when that day comes and you've sold your company, don't be surprised.
A lot of times people already know. So with that said, I realize this was kind of on the general topic of it. If you got other questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to help you think through what's right for your specific company. Check out the show notes for our contact information. Please hit subscribe, and please watch our other videos. Look forward to talking to you soon. Thanks.
Thanks.